One of my favorite things in the world to do is watch Friends. I know it's been off for years and years. It's not even around, but I still find myself binge watching old episodes. And I was thinking about this today and thinking, it's the predictability of the friends in the circle, right? You have Chandler with his quirkiness, Monica with her type A of just everything has to be so neat and tidy and organized. It's Phoebe's ability to make you laugh at her silly songs. Ross always comes in with those smart comments, and Joey and him and his food, like it is just so hilarious. And of course, Rachel, she just brings everybody together, and it's just such this beautiful, cohesive team of people. And it's why I wanted to come on and share with you today that I have an opportunity for you to find your friends in the content creation space. So if you are thinking about creating your first or your next digital course, I don't want you to miss this opportunity because Amy Porterfield just opened the doors for registration for her Course Confident Bootcamp. And I'm actually offering a special bonus for anyone that registers for the Course Confident Bootcamp through my special link. So I want you to go to crystalprofit.com/Amy-bootcamp to register. That's crystalprofit.com/Amy-bootcamp. And what you're going to find when you get there is I have this special bonus private podcast series. It's called Money Mindset for Creators. So I want you to go register for Amy's Bootcamp, download the podcast, and immediately start listening to it, because what this training is set up to do is to help you get your mind right about monetizing your content, making money so that you can fuel your content creation dreams. So go to crystalprofit.com/Amy-bootcamp to register for Course Confident. And I cannot wait for you to find your friends and find the people that will be there for you. Do you see what I did there? Yeah, nice little friends segue connection. Go to crystalprofit.com/Amy-bootcamp. And I cannot wait to see you inside. Okay, let's get into today's episode. Okay, before we get started, today I literally had to check like 4 different places and make sure that I was on the right episode number, because this is episode 275. What? 275 episodes of this podcast? Like, are you even kidding me? Like, that doesn't even count bonus episodes and other fun things that we've done. And I'm just like, wow, 275 episodes, man, it's crazy. What a wild ride. Yeah, I'm so excited to be here with you today and doing what I love. I'm not going to lie. This is so much fun. And what we're talking about today is one of my favorite things. It is literally the thing that gets me so fired up, so pumped up with podcasting. And it was a freaking game changer whenever Buzzsprout introduced this feature. We are talking about dynamic content today and some fun ways to use it. So let's get right to it. Welcome to the Profit Podcast, where we teach entrepreneurs how to start, launch, and market their podcast. I'm your host, Crystal Profit, and I'm so excited that you're here. Thanks for hanging out with me today, because if you've been trying to figure out the world of podcasting, think of this show as the time-saving shortcut you've been looking for. So let's get right to it, shall we? Do you ever look back at your calendar and you're like, oh man, that happened like 7 or 8 months ago. That happened 2 years ago. And then you're like, wait, that was only 6 months ago? What? What are you talking about? So dynamic content with Buzzsprout just rolled out in January 2021, yet I feel like I've used it so much and I'm just so in love with this tool. I feel like it's been around for years. Like I got to, as a Buzzsprout creator and Like I've partnered with them in many different ways, and I get some of the exclusive behind the scenes. Like I get to beta test some of their features before they roll it out to all the accounts. Like they want to make sure there's no bugs in it and that it's good to go for, different creators. And we want to see like, hey, can we give you some feedback? And there's like some back and forth on our end. But this was rolled out to everybody in January 2021. And I feel like it was years ago that we've like had access to it. I still remember. So I've been with but I can't even talk, y'all. I've been with Buzzsprout. That's what I was trying to say. I've been with Buzzsprout since 2018. And it's so crazy to see how their platform keeps evolving. And y'all, it's like a fine wine. Like it just gets better with age. The different statistics, the different charts that they've added, like just the little nuances. Like you don't even, like, oh my gosh, if you're not a Buzzsprout user, you may not get this. But like if you haven't launched yet, you're like, what are you even talking about? Y'all, just the simple fact that they added this little button like at the bottom whenever you're inputting your episode number, and now like it tells me what the previous episode number was, so I don't have to go out and look at it. Like it's the little things in life, y'all, that make me so happy on this podcast journey. Because like I said, here we are. We're at episode 275. That's a lot of podcasting that we've been doing around here. Okay. So any little thing that can make publishing this show every single week that much easier, I'm all about it. But the reason why we are talking about dynamic content today, if you don't know what that is, this is simply a feature that Buzzsprout has where it allows you to add in a clip of audio up to 5 minutes at the very beginning of an episode or at the very end. And what happens is whenever you upload this, you can apply it to your entire backlog of your podcast. Like this is really, really, really like, I hope you're paying attention right now, because this is where the power of dynamic content comes in. So let's just imagine you've been podcasting for a year, right? You have roughly about 50 episodes. If you've been podcasting every single week for an entire year, you have about 50 episodes, right? So imagine if you decided, you know what, I'm going to do a launch. Maybe you're launching a program, you're launching a book, you're launching a live event, maybe a coaching membership, whatever it is, you're launching something. Maybe even it's an affiliate. Like I've used this for my affiliate promotions. But what you can do, it's like you're creating your own ad, right? Like instead of sponsoring or being sponsored by a brand or somebody else saying, hey, I'm going to pay you to say this on your podcast, you're sponsoring your own content or the own affiliate promotion, whatever it is that you're doing. But whenever you upload this piece of audio, it gets put on the very first episode that you did as well. So it's in real time, the ability for you to announce something or tell your audience about something, no matter what episode they're listening to. That's really where the power comes in, because if you're like me, right, you find a new podcast, maybe you don't start with their most recent episode. Maybe you listen to that one. Maybe that's how you found them. But then you're like, I want to go see what do they have in the back catalog? Like, what did they put? And then you're like, oh my gosh, like they had Zafira Rajan on their show. I want to go listen to her episode. Or she talked to May-Kay saying what? May-Kay's my girl, by the way. Like we're peanut butter and jelly of podcasting right there. But, Heather Sager's been on the show. I want to go see what she's talked about. Oh, there's an interview with Amy Porterfield. What was that all about? Like maybe you go back into my back catalog and you see all the incredible guests that we have and you listen to those episodes first. Well, you're still going to hear the dynamic content of whatever it is that I'm promoting at the time. Like in real time, while this episode airs, I'm in the middle of promoting B School with Marie Forleo. So maybe before this episode started, you heard an ad for B School. If you're listening to it in the future, then you'll hear an ad for something else. But what I wanted to talk about today is the power of dynamic content, even when you're not launching anything. So I hope that you really, really pay attention to this, because this tool, if you are a Buzzsprout user, this tool is free for you to use right now. You don't have to pay extra for it. And this was like a huge game changer for a lot of people I had known that were using other podcast hosts. And I told them that Buzzsprout was coming out with this feature, and they were like, wait, what? It's free? Like even on the $12 a month plan, you can use this? Yes, that is what's so incredible about it. Oh my gosh. Like, and like Buzzsprout, I still believe that they are the best in the business because they really, truly want to make it easier for you to get your podcast up and running with as little friction as possible. But then they throw in little gems like this where they're like, oh, by the way, you can do dynamic content at the beginning or the end of your podcast. By the way, I have on good authority that mid-roll dynamic content is in the pipeline. It's in the works. I have no idea when it's coming, but I've heard that it's eventually going to be something that's available to us. So I'm like, what? Being able to put an ad in the middle of an episode and reach listeners that way. Oh, like I drool over this stuff, y'all. Like this is literally what I dream about. That's when you know you're like, Crystal's really into this. She needs to calm down a little bit. But no, I get so excited. And dynamic content, my brain explodes when I think about all the different ways that you can use it. But since I said like we're talking about B School, like we're right in the middle of Marie Forleo's program, I wanted to tell you that I listened to her podcast. It was a few weeks ago, and I cannot remember which exact episode. Now I'm trying to think, and I'm like actively trying to think of who it was. She did an interview that I really wanted to listen to, and I can't think of who it was. But what she did that I thought was really cool, and I wrote it down, and I was like, oh my gosh, I got to talk about this on the podcast because it's so important. She had a mid-roll ad, or maybe it was closer to the end. It wasn't pre-roll, which pre-roll simply means at the very beginning. Post-roll means after the episode is ended and you want to like add something extra to the end. She was promoting her Instagram. She wasn't promoting a paid course. She wasn't promoting her YouTube channel. She wasn't promoting anything where she could like actually monetize something, or you have to go exchange dollars and actually pay her for something. She was doing an ad for her Instagram account. Oh my gosh, it was so good. And for me, this is where I nerd out on this stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's just a proof of concept of you can literally put anything you want to in your dynamic content. So if you're trying to grow your Facebook group, do that. If you've listened to this podcast, you've probably heard I've done that with my own Facebook group where I'm like, hey, if you're looking for a community of podcasters, then come join us in our free Facebook group. And then I put a link to where you can find our group. By the way, if you haven't joined our group, this is like a shameless plug right now because hello, perfect segue. You need to join us in our Facebook group. You can go to the show notes and figure it out how to get there, but it's crystalprofit.com/episode 275. How would you come hang out with us? Because we do have a lot of fun. But I say something like that in the dynamic content whenever I'm adding it. Now, here is the part where people are like, but there's so many things. I could talk about my paid program. I could talk about my Instagram. I could talk about my YouTube. I could talk about my email list. I could talk about blah, 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 blah. Like people just start like spiraling all the things that they could talk about. And so what I recommend is if you're going to use dynamic content, you want to make sure that it is up there long enough for people to take action, but not up there so long where people are just now fast forwarding through the first 2 minutes of an episode because they're like, oh, it's just going to be an ad for something, or it's just going to be something that I don't really care about. I'm not interested in. You don't want to do that. You want to make sure that you change it up often enough to where your listeners are still engaging with your content, meaning they're listening to it actively and not like passively fast forwarding through everything. So that's a really important point that I wanted to make, but I have episodes. I've already done podcast episodes about how to use dynamic content. There's 4 really cool ways to use it and how to use it for your next launch. I was really proud of that episode. It was really fun. So I'm going to link to both of those podcast episodes in the show notes. Those are ones that are here on the Profit Podcast. But I also had a really great conversation on the Buzzsprout podcast, Buzzcast. We talked about, this was actually in January when it first rolled out, and I kind of brain dumped on them. I was like, here's all the ways that a podcaster can use it. And I got so excited, so fired up about it. And they were like, geez, like you're really into this dynamic content thing. And I'm like, yes, it's like a marketer's dream. Because for me, like here's behind the scenes. And if you've listened to the show, you know that I do this, but I have my Google Sheets. Like this is where I have my content laid out whenever I'm planning it. So for example, here I have it open right now. I have to share, this episode's going to be aired. The original air date is on Tuesday, July 27th, 2021. I'm talking about using dynamic content even when you're not selling anything. It's episode 275. And my dynamic content, like I have a column strictly for dynamic content. And like I said, depending on when you're listening to this, you may not hear this same ad at the very beginning of my show, but the dynamic content that I put that is slated to be paired with this episode when it airs is all about my B-School bonus package. And it's something that I was like, okay, I want to promote that in my episode, but I don't want the whole episode to be about that. I don't want it to all be about B-School and the things that I'm offering. I want it to be about something of value, but also mentioning that I have this bonus package for B-School. And the way that I could do that where it felt organic and didn't feel all slimy and spammy was to put it in the dynamic content. So those are my recommendations. If you want to learn more, I'm actually going to link in the show notes. I have 2 other resources. So I have 2 podcast episodes that I've done on this show, as well as the one that I did with Buzzcast. And then I have 2 YouTube videos that actually explains how to use it. So if you're looking for a tutorial, you're like, I still don't understand. What are you talking about? Where do I find this in Buzzsprout? Where can I locate this information? What the heck are you talking about? Go watch the YouTube videos. I'm going to link to them in the show notes, crystalprofit.com/episode 275. That's where you're going to find all this information. And I think that it's important that you start feeling comfortable using dynamic content because it is such a powerful tool. It really is. And I don't want you to just think about it in the ways of like, oh, it's just for making money. I don't want to just sell to my audience all the time. I don't want you to have that mindset either. I want you to think about it. What happens whenever the holidays come around and you can say, you know what? We are trying to raise money for our favorite charity. Here is how you can donate. This is our goal. This is what we're trying to do. And here is the website for you to do that. I want you to think outside the box and think, how can I use this in a way that will benefit my listeners and also help the podcast grow or help your business grow or help something that's close to your heart have a bigger impact because of your show? That's really how I want you to think about dynamic content. I want you to use it in a way that is going to benefit you, but also benefit your listener. Oh my gosh, I could keep going on and on about this, but I'm just going to stop here because this episode will go on for 5 hours if you just let me brain dump all the things about dynamic content. But like I said, you have some homework. Go to the show notes and go listen to the other episodes where I've talked about dynamic content, how you can use it, but I'm going to push you out of your comfort zone. If you have not made your first audio clip for dynamic content, I'm going to challenge you to do it today. Do it within the next 24 hours. Just go record something that says, hey, if you want more tips on our podcast, or related to our podcast, I guess that's how it should say. If you want more tips related to our podcast, go join our Facebook group. This is what it's called. Here's where you can find it. And we make sure you tell us you heard about it on the podcast. Okay, let's get into today's episode. Something short, simple, sweet, but make it to the point and make sure your calls to action are very clear and you're not telling them to do too many things at once. Just have one very clear call to action. Oh my gosh. I was just like, I want to keep going, but I need to cut myself off. I told myself, I was like, this episode's going to be under 20 minutes. It was a challenge for me and I wanted to make it happen. Here we are. I'm cutting it off. So go to the show notes, crystalprofit.com/episode 275 to learn about everything we talked about here today. And like I said, in real time, B-School is closing on July 29th, 2021. So if you're listening to this later, sorry, you missed out of the summer session of B-School. But if you're listening to this in real time, go to the show notes, go check out the bonus package, or if you just want to go straight to the page where it is, go to crystalprofit.com/B-School to learn more. But do not wait. If you're thinking about joining us in B-School, you need to get on it because the doors are closing soon and I'm so fired up to start the accountability calls and all the other fun things that we're doing with our bonus members. But that's all I have for you today. So as always, remember, keep it up. We all have to start somewhere. Hey, Profit Podcast listeners. Thanks for sticking around to a little bit after the episode to hear this special message because I want to hear from you. We are starting a new segment called Fan Mail Shoutouts, and I want to hear from you and I want to hear your questions. What do you want to know? What questions have you been dying to ask me? So here's how to make this happen. Go to the app where you're listening to this podcast right now. Go there. I'll wait a second. Okay. Now, once you're there, you're going to see a hyperlink at the top of the episode description that says, send Crystal a text message. And that's all I want you to do. Send me a text. It could be casual, informal. It could be totally anonymous. Or if you want, you can include your name and the name of your podcast or content wherever you are creating, and I will give you a special shout out in an upcoming episode. So again, go to the show notes for where you're listening to this episode right now, and it will say, send Crystal a text message. And I cannot wait to hear from you and give you a shout out in an upcoming segment of Fan Mail Shoutouts.